How would you describe your relationship with God?
If I had one word, I'd call it miraculous. I use that word because for most of my life, he was there. I'd go to church, do my callings, pretty consistent, but it wasn't until depth of despair that I went through in 2017 to where I felt awakened. I remember there was this moment in time where I just felt so down. And so I was listening to a book on my drive to a CEO summit. I should have been on cloud 9, right? Going to this fancy, swanky thing, and I'm one of the peers. I'm going to be there. As I'm pulling up, I'm just bawling. It just touched my soul deeper than I'd ever felt. And it changed my willingness to dedicate myself to my God. As we grow into adulthood and as we mature, we're going to change. Yeah. And maybe our likes and dislikes change, and maybe what we like to eat changes, and maybe our goals and dreams change. And I remember my goals and dreams were starting to change. And I'm grateful for that. And it gave me new perspective on life. And my dreams of my younger self were calmed.
Bubba Page, welcome to the Roller Coaster Podcast.
So good to be here.
We're doing it, man. Bubba and I go way back. We've known each other for probably at least 15 years. He's a good friend of my older brother, Derek's. And, Bubba's been one of these guys to me that has always been a little mysterious, like a man of many opportunities, I would say. And I don't know if that's outsider perspective looking in. Maybe you feel like you've been only focused on a few things, but every time I think of you, I'm like, I don't even know what Bubba's doing anymore, but I know he's successful and I know he's crushing it. And so, we're gonna talk about a lot of things today. We're gonna talk about your venture fund, if I can call it that, right?
Venture
Syndicate. We're going to talk about some of your past in business that I think people are going to find really meaningful, and then we're going to talk about, one thing that is incredibly meaningful to me in my life right now, which is how to be a great father. And I think you've modeled that really well. Again, outsider looking in. Let's see, right? Yeah. But we'll
don't believe everything you see online.
We'll spend quite a bit of time, on that. So just to kind of preface for the audience. So, yeah. Bubba, I'd love to start out and I'd like to ask you a question about what is one word that would be used to describe you from your best friend?
Oh man, one word. I would hope to say loyal. If it was a friend that was talking about me, I would hope that he would say something like loyal. If it was an acquaintance, I would think they'd say smiley, that sometimes they don't believe. I've been known for people to just meet me.
Yeah.
They don't believe that I can be that smiley all the time. And so, after the 10th and 15th time that they see me and I'm giving them a hug and smile,
they're like, you're the same.
Oh, wait a second. Maybe he really does smile that much. If it was my siblings, I think they'd say privileged. I'm the youngest child. Sometimes the older siblings think that. If it was my parents, sorry, I'm just ad-libbing here, going with it.
Yeah.
I could see them saying something like dedicated.
That's your wife.
If my wife were to say one word, all in.
Nice. I love that. Let's unpack that one. I can see that that's one that is probably pretty meaningful.
Yeah.
To, your relationship and that dynamic. So
yeah.
Why'd you choose that word?
Well, off the cuff, first thing that came to mind, I feel like when we're making decisions, the first thought that comes to your mind is typically the right thought. It may be the more difficult thought, maybe the more uncomfortable thought. I'm a big believer in God. I'm a big believer in faith. And I think that God speaks to us on that first inkling. That first prompting to me is typically God. After that, my own mind can jumble all kinds of stuff. Or even, if I believe in God, and I also believe in the adversary, the other side, Satan. And I think he and his minions also try to get those thoughts in there. But typically, I believe it's not your first thought. So I am trying, this is a lifelong pursuit to try and understand that first thought and to act on that first thought, write it down. That's a new thing. I'm trying to journal a lot more. Yeah. The reason I picked all in is, I'm 40 years old. It's so hard to even say that. Can't believe I'm
40 is the new 30 though.
It's the new 30.
Maybe that's just old guy talk.
I know. I embrace it though. It's amazing to be 40 and feel the way that I feel and know that I have so much time ahead of me and so much still to accomplish and to do and to be. And even though any one of our days could be cut short at any moment, and I've got a story to tell you about that later. I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be 40. Grateful for the years that I've had, and I'm grateful for the years to come. It does feel like I'm just getting started. That's for sure. Okay, so being 40, 8 kids, 4 boys, 4 girls. They are incredible. 3.5-year-old twins to 13, almost 14-year-old. We packed 8 kids in 10 years. My wife is an absolute champ. She always wanted a big family. I thought big was like 4 to 6. She thought big was like 8 to 12. And after we had the twins, we felt the time that we were good. Yeah. I think in any type of marital relationship, having that dedication to one another and that quote unquote being all in is a key factor in any level of success. And I'm not saying my marriage is a success. Sure. We've got plenty that we are working on constantly and can improve on. But I think that all-in factor can help you to get through some of those difficult moments. Mm-hmm. And as an entrepreneur, I've been involved in quite a few entrepreneurial ventures, and it's hard for spouses and as a couple to go through that. Like if you know you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to go down that path, you need to know that there will be challenges and trials that you will face, guaranteed. And even if you're not an entrepreneur, you're going to face those same different challenges and trials. I think there's maybe a heightened level of struggle with entrepreneurial spouses sometimes because of what the business sometimes needs. And the balancing act, I think, is, my wife talks about this on her social platforms, but balancing plates. Sometimes you're able to spin that plate of marriage, but then your business plate might start to lose its turn. Yeah. So then you got to hurry and spin that guy, and then kids, and it's, being able to spin those many, many plates that we have as an entrepreneur, as a founder, as a husband, as a father, as a member of your community, as a member of the church, of your whatever church or organization, of clubs, of friendships, you got to balance a lot of plates. And I don't think there is an official balance. You just have to keep spinning them. But I think all in is one of those words, or I guess 2 words that means a lot to me. That to be all in means you're going to work through whatever you need to work through, and to be there for one another, and to try and have that open vulnerability within a marital relationship that allows for healing to take place. And we've all changed since we were married. I was 23, she was 21. Pretty young to get married. I don't think it's wrong. I just think we're young, and that's okay. And you grow, and as you grow and mature, you're going to become a different human. and your spouse will become a different human. Yeah. Hopefully for better.
Yeah.
But guaranteed you're going to create some kind of a habit or some kind of a thought process or something that may not be as healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And having an all-in spouse is able to work through and be with you and support you through some of those
really
changes.
well said. Yeah, we've been through a lot of that in our marriage too. And I've been super open about just, therapy and everything that was required to get to the other side of that. And I say we're on the other side, but it's like, no, it's a constant work, right? You can't, you have to be really thoughtful about it on a daily basis. So
can I dive in on the therapy thing?
Sure. Yeah.
Everyone watching, therapy is a great thing.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of it. There is no reason to be ashamed that even if you're not having struggles, go to a therapist, even if it's quarterly. I just think, now we've been to some therapists that were not necessarily ideal. Yeah. So you do want to find the right ones. I've also noticed that there are coaches, they don't have the therapy certificate or schooling per se.
Yep.
But I think I'm going to bring this up because it's on my mind. I just read a book called The Masculine in Relationship. Wow, it blew my mind. Most of the books that I've read, earlier in my career, all business books or self-help books and like go get them books. And then I went through a phase, it was all religious, spiritual books. And just, I couldn't get enough of it. Even on meditation and surrendering and all these things.
Yeah.
And right now I'm in this mode of, I want to find out, what does masculinity really mean? Because I think in our minds, when we hear masculinity, we think type A, big buff bodybuilder, tough guy, hunting, that kind of thing. At least that's how I envisioned it when somebody would say, who's a masculine man? Yeah. You'd think a warrior that's out there, a Viking. And as I'm just barely beginning to scratch the surface on the study of masculine versus feminine, which men and women, we all have both. And I may get some hate for bringing up, masculine and feminine in this type of a scenario, but I truly believe that we have a mission as to live in our masculine and to become a true lover of people, to be empathetic and compassionate, but to also have this inner warrior that, we may not be going to war, physical war right now, you and I, but we need to go to battle every day. And whether it's battle against evil, whether it's battle against our own internal mindsets, we need to be able to fight a battle, and our partner, our spouse, they need to feel that. And I'll be the first to admit that I have not done a good job of that. I feel like I lost a lot of that confidence and part of my masculine nature when I had a business that didn't pan out. And there's a whole nother story. That raised venture capital, spent 2 years, almost 3, of blood, sweat, and tears. And we even had false positives, meaning we had revenue coming in the door, clients that wanted the product. And, there's a slew of reasons maybe why that business didn't pan out, but we had to shut the doors down. And I was devastated. I mean, at the time, I thought I was the business. And I know, not from a sense of like I created it all. I had a phenomenal, co-founder, Dave Oldham. He's now a CEO of another local company. And I had great team members, but I took it as my reputation was built on this thing either succeeding or not. And when it failed, I took it as I am a personal failure. And I even remember talking to my investors, venture capitalists here, and they were like, "Bubba, we know it's not your fault. Like this is our game. We invest in businesses where we believe in the people, we believe in what might happen, but most don't. Mm-hmm. So we still love you, and we'll fund your next venture, and it's okay." And I remember like hearing that and feeling the love. And I tried to let it sit in, but it took me probably 6 months before I got out of a depression, anxious funk. And so anybody who's struggled with failure, which if you're an entrepreneur, you will have failure, period.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the path that we have to go down. I just honestly had not had a significant failure in my life yet. And as I've unpacked this with some coaching, some breath work, and some deep diving into my internal being, it even goes back to my childhood. My parents are incredible. I just had them. We hosted them for Thanksgiving. They are amazing human beings. I love them to death. I'm the youngest child, so my mom and I were extremely close. And I even have this thing written down as first grader. It says, I am cute, I am fast, I am strong. She had built up my confidence so high, even in first grade, that I thought I was invincible.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, she continued to do that my entire life. She built up my confidence so much. And I love that about her, that she helped me to feel like I could be myself and feel like I could conquer the world. The flip side of that is that I never knew what failure looked like, other than not making the basketball team my freshman year in high school. But I don't think that was real failure, right? Yeah. I know I was devastated then, and so when this happened, when the business didn't pan out the way that we had hoped, it shook my world more than it should have, to be honest. I didn't have the tools. I didn't have the understanding to work through these feelings. I had never even known what depression was. I had heard people talk about it, but I had no experience or anyone around me didn't know what being anxious meant. You just push through it. As an entrepreneur, you're going to feel anxious, but you just go do anyway. But man, it rocked my world. And honestly, that was in 2017. I haven't been the same. That is sad for it to take me that long and for me to only now feel like I'm starting to put words to maybe the feelings I had. That's sad.
For sure.
And it's my own fault. I take full accountability of not figuring out solutions to some of those things earlier.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a lot that we can go there.
You talked about third grade writing down this I am statement. One of the things that I've worked with men and women on a lot is a framework that I call the I am statement. And the idea behind this is, how do you decouple what you do from who you are? And if you think about the last 50 times that you were in a public setting and you were introducing yourself for the first time, right? How did you introduce yourself? My guess is, I'm Bubba. I have a VC syndicate. I have done these things. I'm an entrepreneur guy. I'm a this and that. And you never actually tell the person who you are at your core, right? And so the thing that we work on is we actually write down, like, who are you at your core?
I love that.
And what is your identity truly? And leave work and career and professional out of it completely. And it's hard for people. Mm-hmm. It's hard, and it takes some real time and some real digging and, who am I? And so, what are your thoughts on, I think if you would have known truly who you were before you had that failure, you would have been able to handle it probably a lot better, right? So for other entrepreneurs that are about to go through what you went through, we all have failures in our life, right? Like, what are your thoughts on this idea of decoupling
100%
your work from who you actually are?
Yeah, I mean, if I would have known 20 years ago what I'm only beginning to understand now, to have first start journaling, period. I know I was told that as a kid to journal. And yeah, I put some things down here and there. And in college, I wrote some things down. I served an LDS mission, a Mormon mission in Brazil. Absolutely loved it. It was incredible. And I wrote a ton, 2 books full on my mission. I mean, the miracles and the experiences were unbelievable. That was my first experience of writing, truly writing, more than just my day-to-day. As a kid, or even as I would write, like, I went to school today. I hung out with Joe. But to be able to write down your feelings, the thoughts, good or bad, and not planning on sharing this with anybody. Because I remember writing in my journal, I would write it for my posterity. So I'd make it pretty, and it was good, and it was all things positive. And I missed a huge opportunity to write down my failures, my struggles, the temptations, my what I needed to work on, the things that I missed a huge opportunity. So if I were to talk to my 20-year-old self again, I'd say start journaling today and do it every day. Find, even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes, whether it's in the morning or at night, write down your wins. What did you win today? Did you exercise today? That's a win. Did you help someone today? That's a win. Did you do something you wanted to accomplish at work? That's a win. Write it down. Did you overcome a negative thought? That's a win. Write it down. If you can write down your wins and then write down some of the struggles. What is haunting your mind? What are your fears? And I think I've been just hiding those things or pushing them down for so long that I didn't face my fears. And if I would have known who I truly was, but here's the thing. If you would have asked me as a 20-year-old, who am I? I would have been like, of course I know. And I would have just like spouted out whatever first came to my head without taking a deeper dive of saying, who am I? I am a son of God. Like that's my first go-to. I am a son of God. I know he loves me. And I want to be a warrior for him. And that doesn't mean I'm going to go offend people or I'm going to throw my spiritual beliefs on other people, but I'm going to be a warrior for truth to the best that I can. I am a father. I should say I'm a husband, because I think the priority for me is God, my wife, and my kids in that order. And having the priority of God, making sure that I put him before all else is, I think, a critical piece. But knowing that my wife is she is my eternal companion. She is my everything, that I know I missed a lot of chances as a husband to validate her, to hear her the way I should hear, to help her become who she needed to be. I thought I was doing those things, but I didn't fully understand. And I still don't fully understand. I'm working on those things. As a father, knowing who I am as a father, I want to be teaching these kids correct principles. I want them to be able to govern themselves when the time comes. I want to have fun with them. I want to be a fun dad. I want them to remember that we had fun together and that we were able to talk openly about anything. And I love my parents, but we weren't able to just be open about everything. Yeah. And maybe it's a generational thing.
For sure. Yeah.
But anyway, the I am statement, I am going through it right now. Again, I told you I'm going to a retreat this weekend.
Yeah.
I have been writing in my journal in depth. Who am I? Who does God want me to be? What are the gifts that God has given me? And how can I utilize those gifts to help other people? And in that journey that I'm on right now, I want to have the feeling of pure confidence that I'm headed down the path I'm supposed to head down. And that I can make the most impact in the world that I'm supposed to make, so that I can feel this intrinsic validation and not need it from outside sources. Going back to my mom, and I just love my mom. She built my confidence up like crazy. But I didn't learn to appropriately create internal validation and internal self-confidence. I derived it from other people. And I'm more of an outgoing personality, so that was easy for me. Making relationships is easy for me, I feel. Winning awards and getting on stage or whatever it is, like those things come easier.
All external validation.
But they're all external.
Yeah.
And I've been living so much off of external validation. I am 40. dang years old. I should
Totally.
not need external
Totally.
validation. So I think this path of the I am statement is, I would absolutely recommend any human, whether you're 20, 16, 18, whatever, or even in your 60s and 70s, if you haven't done this yet, it's time.
For sure. Thank you to our sponsors over at Bucked Up. I love this company. I love their products, their apparel, and their supplements. Recently, they dropped the mother of all pre-workouts, Mother Bucker. This is not for the faint of heart. This will make you want to claw your face off. So don't get stuck in traffic when you're headed to the gym. I love these guys. I love this company, and I love their products. They are clearly the best tasting pre-workout on the entire market, and they're number one for a reason. Bucked Up is my favorite workout brand, hands down. And they also have my favorite apparel for working out and just for daily life. It's Lululemon-like quality, but for a fraction of the price that's affordable. So head over to their site, buckedup.com, where you can check it out. And for 20% off their entire site, use the code TylerHall20. There's a lot there. One of the things that I've talked about a lot on the podcast, I'll actually, if you'd like, I'll read you my statement.
I would love that. Oh my gosh.
Cool. Give you maybe some inspiration. But there's something that I've talked about on the show before, which is that I believe that every man I hope some point in their life wakes up and they realize that they don't need external validation anymore, and that it really doesn't matter what everybody else thinks about you, and that allodoxophobia, or what's known as the spotlight effect, is not a real thing, right? It's the idea of everybody around us is watching us and has a microscope on us and cares what we're doing. The reality is, like, no one cares. Everyone's worried about themselves, right? Yeah. And that is, I think, a moment for every man that if you haven't achieved that and you still do deeply care and you haven't figured out how to validate yourself internally, like work to get there.
But the honest truth, though, is think about it from a percentage basis. Less than half have come to a place where they're able to have that full confidence inside. Yeah. I would say
significantly less,
right? Like
who knows
less
what
than 10%,
yeah.
less than 1%.
Very low.
So I would say that the majority of us that are listening to this have probably are still worried. And me too.
Yeah.
And it's sad because we know that we shouldn't, but maybe we don't know how yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe that's part of our journey.
Yeah, for sure. There's so much similarity between what you said and my I am statement, which, by the way, is written down. I didn't make any changes, I promise. Okay. I'm a child of God with potential beyond human imagination, a father of 4 sacred children, and a husband to a loving wife. A machine, my habits and routines can't be broken. A man of my word, I do what I say I'm going to do. A doer, watch my feet, not my lips. A long game player, not distracted by instant gratification. An acceptor of people, my ability to judge does not exist. I don't take things personally because I know who I am. Full of love for my fellow man. A calm and kind man, but not to be taken lightly. My sword is sheathed and will only be used if absolutely necessary. Called to change the lives of millions of men through my example.
Oh, that is money. That is so inspiring. There are so many elements of that as I listened where I say, I know I'm not there yet, but I want to be that.
Yeah.
Talk about a man of my word. If you would have asked me even just a few months ago, Bubba, are you a man of your word? I'd say, heck yeah, I am. Totally. I'm honest, high integrity. But then if I, the last few months, as I've been digging deeper, holy crap, I have made so many mistakes. And it's sad. And I look at internally and I'm like, how many times did I say I'd bring the milk home? Oh, honey, I forgot. And literally a few months ago, I'd say, no, of course I'm still a man of my word. Of course. But technically I was not. I said I would, I did not.
Yeah.
And therefore I was not a man of my word. I've even had to create better systems for myself to, especially with my wife. If I hear a request, hey, hon, whatever, take out the garbages. I'm like, of course. No brainer. And she should never have to ask me that because that's just on my duty list.
It's one of mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let's just say she did. And it wasn't normally on my to-do list. Well, now I actually write it down. And I tried to do it on paper for a little bit, but I didn't carry paper enough. So I have a task, Google Tasks on my phone, and I can immediately put it in my phone with reminders so that I can actually get crap done. Because how many times did I get asked to clean out the garage? Of course, yeah, for sure. And then 6 months later, finally clean out the garage. Yeah. And I know there's plenty of people out here who can relate. I've learned recently that meant I was not a man of my word. And I was devastated to come to that conclusion because I always thought I am a man of integrity.
Yeah.
That is a huge part of who I thought I was and who I now know it's who I want to be. Yeah. And I think all of us can be better. And I'm sure there's men and women listening to this, but I want to just specifically to men, like we must be better. We are called to a higher calling, and that is to be a man of our word. And it's an ongoing learning and improvement. But anyway, that stuck out to me. I really appreciate that.
You got it.
And the sword that's sheathed, ready to be, oh man, that's powerful.
Little poetry in
yes. Good job. I love that.
Thanks, man. I'll send it to you too.
I love it.
So you can, I encourage you and anybody who's listening to do this. And it took time. It takes time. Yeah. And actually there's
revisions, and I'm sure.
It's an ever evolving thing for sure. And I think it's intended to be a bit aspirational too. Right? Like I'm here, but there's levels above this. And so I want to get to, I want to get to that place.
I love that, man.
How would you describe your relationship with God?
I have to close my eyes. Just feel it. Sometimes just put your hand over here, breathe it in. If I had one word, I'd call it miraculous. I use that word because for most of my life, he was there. And yeah, I'd talk to him here and there. I'd go to church, do my callings, pretty consistent. But it wasn't until probably the same depth of despair that I went through in 2017 to where I felt awakened. And that's the miraculous relationship that was built. I'm a crier, so they may come. I think that's okay. Men do cry, and that's okay.
All the time.
Masculine can still have emotion.
Sure.
I remember there was this moment in time where I just felt just so down. And I was listening to a book. I'm an audiobook guy. And so I was listening to a book on my drive to a CEO summit. So I'm about to be with all these, super successful men and women, and it's hosted by these venture capitalists, and I should have been on cloud 9, right? Going to this fancy, swanky thing, and I'm one of the peers. I'm going to be there. And man, as I'm pulling up, I'm just bawling. my feeling as I was listening to this, it was a religious book, and it just touched my soul deeper than I'd ever felt before. And although I had always known God was there, I truly had just that basic level of faith my whole life. But to the depth that he knew me and every fiber, every cell in my body, he knew me. I had not felt that until that moment. And it's sad. I think of it as it's sad that I missed so many years. And even during the 2 years of my mission, I felt very close, but it still wasn't the same as this moment in 2017. On my mission, I felt guided all the time. I had miraculous things happen, and learning a language is incredible. That was a gift. But at that moment, there was this connection to the divine that I had never felt before. And it changed my willingness to dedicate myself to my God. And I know it wasn't easy even for my wife when I started diving deeper and deeper into this relationship and into my focus in the spirituality of it was almost abrupt, and I think it was hard to see these changes that were happening for me. And this is part of when we talked earlier about as we grow into adulthood and as we mature, we're going to change.
Yeah.
And maybe our likes and dislikes change, and maybe what we like to eat changes, and maybe our goals and dreams change. And I remember my goals and dreams were starting to change. And I'm grateful for that. And it gave me new perspective on life. And my dreams of my younger self were calmed. And I had a new outlook of just a new perspective. Anyway, that was a long explanation for the word miraculous.
What do you think, I get this sense that you are, not even a sense, you're working on yourself probably more at this stage of your life than you ever have. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's the reason why I'm launching the Levels movement next year, which is just to help other men work on themselves. It's what I've spent the last couple of years since we had our family event, and
we all need it.
We all need it. What would you say is like your purpose now? Like, why are you here? What consumes your mind share the most?
It's part of my process. So let me give you the first rough draft.
Yeah.
Let me first lay out my priorities, and that is they're different than my purpose. I've come to at least feel like my priorities of God, wife, children, health, and things like that, those are priorities that you plan in advance for, that you dedicate time and energy towards. But I've come to find I believe I need a purpose outside of those priorities as well. I could be wrong. This is why it's a first draft. So knowing that these are my priorities, and this is what I've basically built my whole life around, were these priorities, I lost a sense of purpose outside of my wife, children, and religion, spirituality. I lost it. And it was interesting because maybe they should be all in the same. But as I felt like I lost my mission, my drive, my purpose, I was focusing so much time on, God, wife, kids, that I feel like there was almost like God had to wake me up, slap me and say, hey, I appreciate you focusing on me and your wife and your kids. And yes, you should still focus on your, God, wife, kids. Absolutely, and health. But you're more than that. If they all died in an accident tomorrow, who would you be? And And if all of my time and attention was just focused here and they were all gone at some point, who would I be? And I feel like that's where this mission and drive of purpose. So my rough draft, I feel like my mission right now is to inspire others with entrepreneurship. I have a passion for entrepreneurship. I love helping people with entrepreneurship. I love guiding and mentoring, and I love investing in entrepreneurship so that others and myself can create jobs. Jobs can create self-reliance. Even in any part of this world, there can be simple entrepreneur ventures that produce jobs, that can produce self-reliance. Some will reach financial freedom, and that financial freedom should allow for an abundance, and that abundance should be able to help other people. I hope my mission, and with influence, influence.vc, I want to continue to invest in entrepreneurs financially and mentoring and advising, whatnot, to create this overall impact, an influence for good within this realm of, when it comes down to it, it's a level of self-reliance and abundance. I don't think, there's an abundance for everyone to have success. And whatever success means to that person, everyone can reach their level of what they want in success. And there isn't a finite resource, in my opinion. I believe that abundance can be delivered to all. So my mission is to help drive entrepreneurship, which drives jobs, which drives self-reliance, and that abundance can help others.
Beautiful cycle.
Anyway, that's my first draft.
Well, let's, I want to just kind of transition. And for the last, chunk of time here, I want to talk about the venture fund. So I'm going to pepper you with 4 questions, specifically around the venture fund.
Sure.
And,
Venture Syndicate.
The Venture Syndicate, okay, which the difference for those who are listening is a fund is a structured fund where you pool together capital. It typically has a shelf life. You have to invest out of that fund in certain companies, and you have a mandate that you have to adhere to with investors. A syndicate is each deal is a deal-by-deal basis that you can invite investors into that can choose to invest typically any amount of money that they want, and they're picking deal by deal versus being pooled into a fund. Okay?
And no mandate.
No mandate, which is amazing. So the first question is, not about sort of investing, but it's, what is your advice for a first-time founder?
First-time founder. I'm a huge believer in network, in the network, your network. When I've spoken to college student classes, I'm like shouting from the rooftop, sign up for LinkedIn. You know what I mean? I'm I know that seems so lame, and you're probably thinking only your dad's on LinkedIn. But I'm like, look, you're going to sit next to somebody in class, and you can follow them on Instagram or TikTok or whatever the thing is that you're going to stay connected with. Yeah. And maybe LinkedIn is too old school, and maybe that isn't the future. But I would preach to them, say, look, just connect with them on a social platform like LinkedIn. Because I look back at my past, people I've met in college have become investors of mine. They've become co-founders of mine. They've become partners, friends, employees. Yeah. Like the network of people that you meet, and if you can create relationships with people, they will last a lifetime, literally a lifetime. And you can be of service to them. They can be of service to you. And this network, build your network with purpose. Maybe that's the best. Build your network with purpose.
Great example. Bubba and I didn't see each other for like a decade. We bumped into each other at a dinner randomly when I was here a few weeks ago. He's like, what are you up to? I don't know. I'm doing a bunch of stuff. Podcast. You should come on. Let's come on. Here we are talking. Now, we have a pretty large audience now. And so people are going to listen to this and probably reach out to you, or reach out to me, or talk about. And so you're exactly right? That's the way it works. Okay.
I love it.
How do you pick good companies?
The secret sauce.
Yeah.
For me, it all starts with the founder. So that is the numero uno. That it's the people. I'm betting on the people, especially at this early stage. Yeah. If I was a private equity firm and I was investing in a company that already had 50 million in revenue, people are still going to be actually, you know what? People, guaranteed people for me.
Yeah.
But in the early stage, I'm betting on this jockey because I know the business will change. So the horse they're riding, the current elevator pitch that they just gave me, will change. And I have to believe that jockey will change horses when necessary and keep riding. So number one, it's the founder. I love repeat founders. I know that's unfair to first-time founders. And I have funded first-time founders. Mm-hmm. But it is helpful to know that person has been there and done that and had some level of success before.
For sure.
Because we all make mistakes. And you do it especially on your first go-round. So that's a higher priority. You're going to have more points if you're a second or third time founder.
Yeah.
Typically after people, then I'm looking at market size. I just want to make sure it's a venture backable business. If you're washing windows, that could be a phenomenal business for you, a lifestyle, cash flowing business. And there is nothing wrong with building a lifestyle business. That was my business I built from 2009 and sold in 2020. It was more of a lifestyle business. And it cash flowed like crazy. It was amazing. But it's not venture backable. And so as a venture capitalist, as an investor, I probably shouldn't invest looking for venture capital type returns. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm talking to a group. I literally just recorded this yesterday. They do trampoline parks. They pitched me as an investor for their trampoline parks. I'm looking at that investment as not a venture capital investment of a 10x plus return, but as a cash flowing investment. Mm-hmm. And it is a service. It's a lifestyle type business.
Yeah.
So, and I think that especially nowadays, investors are looking for cash flowing type opportunities. So anyway, all right. So market opportunity and then idea is third. Idea is third. Again, because it's going to change. Mm-hmm. But I do want to have at least some idea of where they're thinking. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with the idea to be small at first. And even if their market for that small idea is small there, but they have to have the vision of where it's going to reach the broader market. But again, this is advice for a very early stage.
For sure.
Pre-seed, seed plus type investment.
And brownie point, probably big brownie points for, do number 3 and 1 have alignment, right? Like, does the founder have some sort of expertise in the idea that they're going after? Domain.
Absolutely.
It was a pain for them, right? A passion. Who can join your syndicates?
Any accredited investor.
Okay. Which means what?
Oh, let's see if I can think of the legalese. I think if you're an individual, you have to be earning $200,000 a year or something. If you're a couple, then you have to have $300,000 a year, or at least have a minimum of $1 million in net worth. I think I'm speaking properly. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And so anyone that has that, and it can include your primary residence. So nowadays, most people are, well, not most adults in their 30s or 40s or beyond may be living in a home that is worth $1 million. Yeah. Therefore, they could be potentially considered unaccredited. Yeah. I would only begin investing in venture capital if you have already built your emergency savings. You have already invested in, some level of a 401k or some kind of an IRA. I would take venture capital as a very high risk investment that potentially has high returns. But if I were to give advice to somebody who is a first time angel investor, I'd say make sure all of your other ducks are in a row. Yeah. Probably have more real estate investing, probably have more, even private equity is safer. Yeah. And venture capital has a very sexy feel to it, and it's really fun to be a part of a rocket ship. Yeah. But just be aware that it should be probably a very small percentage of your overall portfolio. Yeah. Less than 10%, in my opinion. That's just a little bit of advice for those who are wanting to come in. But as long as you meet some of those criteria, absolutely reach out. I would love to have you be a part of the syndicate. I send out deals on a monthly basis that I've vetted hundreds of deals, and I typically pick 2 or 3 that I'm going to fund. And typically I'm writing my own check. And so I'm writing a check and I'm inviting others to write a check. And then we combine our funds to write one larger check. And that way that company only has one entity on their cap table, which is the ownership structure. And it's usually easy for them to manage just one.
Yeah.
So that's the quick snippet.
Amazing. Bubba, I wish we had more time, but I'm happy that you could be on, and I appreciate you being vulnerable and opening up and jumping on the roller coaster.
I love it. Hey, I'm just so glad you're doing this.
Thanks,
you're
man.
diving deep, and we need that. We need especially men to be opening up. I don't think we do it enough.
Thank you. All right. That's a wrap.